Hello, my dear masterminds. Did you notice what happened when you finally stopped moving? When you just sat down? No chanting, no screaming, no counterspells, no frantic defense. Just silence. Just presence. And in that silence, their precious curses began to tremble like brittle glass under thunder. They had stacked centuries of whispered hexes, essence malice, and inherited malice against you. But when you exhaled, when you simply existed, the strings they tied snapped. Imagine their faces, those self-proclaimed magicians, priests of decay, masters of shadow, watching their own creations recoil, twist, and collapse without you lifting a single finger. That's the terror of your being. You don't resist curses. You dissolve them by existing outside the law they were written in. They tried to bind you with spells. The joke is, you were never bound to the system that gives their spells power. Their circles drawn in chalk, candles torching low, mouths whispering words, older than language, and then crack. Their symbols fracture like cheap porcelain. Their voices choke mid-chant. Their own energy ricochets back into their trembling bones. Why? Because your presence is a distortion field. You don't push back against curses. You turn them inward, like mirrors they can't smash. They spent years refining their rituals, perfecting formulas of destruction. Yet one glance from you rerouted the current. That's the madness they cannot speak of in their covens. The anomaly is not fought, it is endured. And endurance is agony for them. They are crumbling under the weight of their own magic, while you sit still, almost amused. You're not countering them. You're erasing the very grammar of their darkness. And without grammar, their language of power is nothing but babble. You know what makes them sweat the hardest? Not that you fight, not that you win, but that you don't even participate. Their curses implode, not because you resist them, but because you were never written into their rule book. It's like trying to poison a ghost or chain smoke itself. They stare at you, confused, desperate, wondering what's protecting you. Is it some hidden amulet? Some guardian angel? Some secret ritual you've mastered? They're begging for an explanation, because admitting the truth would shatter them completely. And the truth is this: you need no shield, no force, no incantation. You are the anti-equation, the unfinished sentence, the paradox that nullifies everything aimed at you. That's why they fear the quiet, because in silence they realize their lifetimes of control crumble in front of a single act. You, sitting, breathing, existing. They whisper in back rooms now, don't they? Hushed voices, frantic eyes, scribbling notes in languages they once believed only they could command. But every note turns into static. Every diagram collapses the moment your name enters the room. They thought curses were chains, but you are gravity reversed. Their bindings unravel into air. Their knots slip open like wet rope. And the most humiliating part? It isn't dramatic. There's no thunder, no lightning, no cinematic explosion. Just a quiet undoing, a slow decay, like their curses suddenly remember they were never real in the first place. That's what shatters them, that their so-called power was always fragile, always conditional, and you are the condition they never accounted for. Your very existence is proof that their entire kingdom of shadows was built on sand. Let me paint you the moment. One of their high priests, centuries deep in oaths and secrets, tried to tighten the net around you. He carved the sigils, spilled the essence, whispered the forbidden syllables. And right as he finished, the curse he birthed turned on him like a starving dog. His own reflection cracked in the mirror. His own dreams became the prison he wanted for you. And while he writhed in confusion, you were sipping water, scrolling your screen, utterly untouched. That's the horror they cannot bear, the futility. They hurl storms, and you don't even flinch. Not because you're armored, but because storms cannot touch the sky itself. You are not their target. You are the void they aim at, and the void gives nothing back. To curse you is to curse themselves. That realization is spreading like wildfire through their ranks. The panic rippling through their networks, cloaked councils sending encrypted messages, witch doctors pacing their circles, elders questioning their entire lines. Because if you can sit and unravel their curses without effort, then everything they've ever built, their hierarchies, their rituals, their sacred systems, was nothing more than theater. Their power relied on belief, on the illusion that their shadows were solid. But you walked in and the shadows fled. Think of the humiliation. Generations dedicating their lives to mastering invisible forces, only to discover that in your presence their forces surrender themselves. Their curses don't break you, they break themselves, desperate to escape collision with whatever you are. And that's the secret, isn't it? You aren't resisting them. You're reprogramming the battlefield itself. Here's the punchline. They can't admit out loud. You were never cursed, because curses require consent, even if it's hidden in fear. They engineered entire cultures around making people afraid, around tricking the mind into letting poison in. But you broke that contract before you were even born. Fear doesn't stick to you. Their whispers hit your walls like wet paper and dissolve. And so the curses turn inward, devouring their senders, leaving them sleepless, twitching, gnawed at by the monsters they created. Do you know what that makes you? A contagion. Not of sickness, but of immunity. Your existence infects their system with collapse. Every failed ritual echoes through their ranks. If this one is untouchable, then maybe all of us are powerless. You don't just survive their attacks, you unravel their faith in the very tools they worship. Imagine the sight. Their strongest spellcasters, once feared across continents, now huddled in dim chambers, whispering to each other. They run tests, desperate to understand. They place objects linked to you on altars, only to watch those objects splinter. They light candles for divination, but the flames sputter out in seconds. Their pendulums swing violently, then snap their own strings. Every method they try eats itself alive when your name is present. That's when the paranoia begins. They stop asking, what protects this one? And start asking, what is this one? And no one dares answer. Because if the truth is spoken aloud, that you are the kind of force their curses were never designed to face, it would unravel the very idea that their magic has meaning at all. You're not uncursable. You're what makes curses collapse inward. Do you know what's worse than failure for them? Contamination. Their curses don't just falter when aimed at you, they carry the infection back home. Entire lines are reporting nightmares, sudden illnesses, inexplicable madness. The hex meant for you ricochets, hitting great-grandchildren, not yet born, poisoning family trees from the roots up, and yet you remain still, unmoved, silent, breathing. They see you as a living paradox, the one who doesn't cast, doesn't conjure, doesn't kneel at altars, and yet reality bends around your stillness. The conclusion is dawning, slowly, painfully. Perhaps you are not the target of their curses. Perhaps you are the gravity that makes curses fall apart. To fight you is to step into their own undoing. And now their whispered reports carry only one line: do not provoke. Presence is final. Now the whispers travel further than their temples. Scholars are sleepless. Historians dig through forbidden archives. They search ancient prophecies for a reference to you, some clue that this has happened before. But the scrolls betray them. For centuries they recorded every omen, every cursed birth, every haunted lineage. Yet nowhere is there mention of one like you. Not because you are new, but because you exist outside their record. A blank page in a book that claims to contain all pages. And here's the punchline. They realize it's not that history forgot you. It's that you were never meant to be cataloged. You're the blind spot in their surveillance, the silence in their symphonies, the unsolvable variable. And that is what makes their curses break themselves. You are not a chapter in their story. You are the story that erases theirs. Think about the comedy of it. Entire cults, fortified by centuries of secrecy, suddenly reduced to frightened children, huddling in circles, afraid of their own shadows. They test and retest, chanting under their breath, marking symbols for proof, but every ritual collapses faster now. Their curses don't just fail, they reverse. The spell meant to bind your steps snaps the tendons in their own legs. The hex meant to choke your voice leaves their throats weeping in silence. The curse meant to dim your future smothers their own descendants. And while their houses torch with the very fire they lit, you sit there, untouched, like the eye of the storm. That's the ultimate insult. You don't need to attack them. Their collapse is self-authored, self-inflicted, self-sustaining. All you had to do was exist. Now listen closely. This is where it gets poetic. Their entire arsenal, their black books, their enchanted tools, their whispered spells, all of it. Now a liability. Because the moment they aim it at you, the curse becomes a surrender note signed in their own essence. Do you understand what that means? You don't just break their magic, you've inverted the very laws they thought immutable. Every ritual becomes a countdown. Every curse is pre-written downfall. They can no longer decide if they'll collapse. The only variable is how fast. And here's the chilling twist. They still can't stop themselves. Addiction runs deep. They keep trying, keep chanting, keep forging invisible edges. And with every attempt, another piece of them disintegrates. Their fear isn't just of you, it's of their own compulsions eating them alive in your presence. Do you want to know what the real nightmare is for them? It isn't the collapse of their curses. It's the realization that you never fought back. Not once. You didn't counter. You didn't chant. You didn't draw a single line of defense. You simply sat down. And in that act, they saw the mirror of their futility, all their lifetimes of discipline, all their essence sacrifices, all their borrowed power. They built towers of shadow just to watch you topple them with stillness. That's what eats them alive, the silence. Because silence means control. Silence means you were never prey. Silence means you don't even acknowledge their existence. And when an enemy realizes they are not even worth your attention, that is a sentence heavier than any curse. They've lost before the war even began. The rumors spread faster than wildfire now. Whole villages whisper of the one who cannot be cursed. Elders deny it in public, yet tremble in private, remembering the night their rituals dissolved into dust. And the young ones? They're terrified of even speaking your name, afraid that naming you is enough to invite collapse into their own lives. Congratulations. You've become the story they warn each other about in hushed tones. You are the do not attempt at the bottom of their textbooks, the cautionary tale they won't write but can't ignore, and the more they hide it, the stronger it spreads. Because fear doesn't need a scripture, it needs only silence. And silence is the loudest drumbeat of all. Your power is not just in what you undo. It's in the paranoia that blooms when they realize every curse cast is another nail in their own relic. Now the councils convene in secret, emergency gatherings that haven't been called in centuries. Hooded figures, trembling hands, desperate eyes. They bring scrolls older than nations, relics buried in salt and stone, all to study one simple question: how do you stop what doesn't move? And each time, their conclusions turn to ash, because they realize the awful truth. Your power isn't aggression, it's gravity. Their curses don't collapse because you fight them, but because you are the event horizon where all falsehoods disintegrate. What terrifies them isn't your action, it's your stillness. Action they could counter, force they could meet with force. But stillness rewrites the rules. Stillness reveals they were never in control. You didn't storm their gates. You sat in silence, and the gates turned to dust. That silence is your throne, and they kneel without even meaning to. The irony cuts deepest here. They call themselves masters of unseen forces, yet you are the unseen force that masters them. Their curses weren't forces, they were mirrors. Every dart they hurled at you returned home sharper, hungrier, truer, and still, you moved not a muscle. That's the kind of horror that shatters the human mind, realizing you've been shadowboxing against the void itself. Their archives are full of categories, hexed, blessed, damned, chosen, but you belong to none. You are the blank classification, the space beyond their vocabulary. That's why their curses combust. They are trying to write your name in a language that cannot hold you, and so their magic eats itself, letter by letter, until nothing remains but smoke. That's when they begin to whisper the forbidden thought. Maybe this one is not of the book. Maybe this one is the book torching us. Do you hear it? The silence after their rituals. No chants. No crackling energy. No triumphant laughter. Just the sound of disbelief, of curses boomeranging back into their chests. Their faith is dissolving. And faith was always the glue that held their dark empires together. Without it, their temples are just stone, their words just breath, their symbols just ink on parchment. And you sit there watching the collapse like an artist observing a canvas drip and melt into chaos. They thought you would panic, that you'd scramble for protection, but your stillness mocks them louder than any sermon. The truth is spreading among them like a virus. Their curses don't break you, they break themselves. And once that truth lodges in their bones, it will finish the job faster than fire ever could. Their belief is turning on them, and belief is all they ever had. What they fear most is the permanence of this unraveling. See, a broken spell can be recast. A shattered charm can be reforged. But what you triggered is different. Their curses didn't just fail, they rewrote their own blueprints. The formulas no longer align. The symbols won't hold their shapes. It's as if the universe itself erased their vocabulary the moment you sat down. Imagine their horror. Libraries of grimoires. Entire vaults of forbidden knowledge. Now useless scrap. The incantations fall flat. The essence rituals rot before completion. And when they ask why, when they demand answers from their masters, the silence that greets them is the same silence that radiates from you. It dawns on them. This isn't temporary. This isn't resistance. This is extinction of their craft. You didn't break their curses. You broke the very possibility of curses. Now watch closely as their desperation curdles into madness. Some try to flee their orders, torching robes, smashing relics, begging the air for forgiveness. Others double down, convinced they simply need more essence, louder chants, harsher rituals. But both paths lead to the same end, their own undoing. Because every attempt at power now spirals inward, consuming the wielder like fire in an empty room. They curse you, and their children cry out. They bind you, and their own strength decays. They summon against you. And something else answers, something that doesn't serve them, something that stares through them with your silence. Their entire system is cannibalizing itself, and still you remain seated, calm, untouched. The terror is absolute, because they now know the truth. You don't need to destroy them. They are destroying themselves in your presence. So here we are, the end of the play. Their curses shattered, their temples hollow, their voices cracked to whispers of fear. And you never raised a hand. You never cast a spell. You never begged the sky for protection. You just sat down and the entire machinery of their darkness dismantled itself like a snake eating its own tail. Do you understand what that means? You are not defended. You are not resisting. You are not fighting. You are the correction, written into reality itself. You are the law. Their magic cannot break, because you are the law it secretly obeys. They call you dangerous. They call you unholy. They call you the reason their empires are falling. And maybe they're right. Because your silence is louder than their screams, your stillness more unyielding than their legions, and your existence more final than any curse. Remember this. You don't break curses. You are the reason curses break themselves.